Hey, welcome back. I'm so glad you returned to the channel. Today is going to be a really important video, so I want you to stick around, follow it all the way to the end. We're going to be talking about healthcare in Brazil. Welcome back. My name is Michel. I'm a retiree who lives in Sao Paulo, Brazil, full time. So let's talk about healthcare because this is a very, very important topic, right? You're thinking about moving to Brazil or really any country for that matter. And sometimes what happens is that you're so excited about this new change, about going to this new exotic country, wherever your destination may be, that you often forget about the very simple things. Healthcare. Healthcare. Think about it. What if something happens to me? I don't care if you are 18 or 63 years old like me. It's super important to look into the healthcare prior to you moving to whatever destination you decide. Of course, as you guys all know, mine was Brazil. Now, a little background history. Right prior to COVID, I was starting to have some problems. I felt some burning in my chest. The doctor just said, "Oh, it's probably acid reflux." Treated it that way. COVID hit, and I was in the U.S. at the time. Really difficult to get treatment. When things kind of eased up a little bit, I went to a gastroenterology doctor. He said, "Hey, you ever done a cardiac exam?" I said, "No, actually, I never had. I had suffered or been treated for blood pressure, high blood pressure, although I was in super good physical shape, working out the gym all the time. Did the cardiac workup with the cardiologist. EKG was a little abnormal. He said, let's do an angiogram of your heart, which is when they inject dye into you and they look at the blood flow around your heart. For those of you who are very familiar with cardiac disease, my calcium score was almost 3,000. Anything over 100 is high risk. Doctor called me up, hey, go to the emergency room, tell them you're having chest pains, even if you're not, because I was asymptomatic. Long story short, I got 4 stents, had the stents about a year. A year later, I didn't feel good, you know. I went back to the cardiologist. They did another angiography, and I had 4 blockages. So at that point, they did another cardiac catheterization and said, you need open heart surgery. Wow. I mean, really, I was like shocked. So I had a quadruple bypass October 27th, 2021 in South Florida. Everything went well. The recovery went well, and I went on about my life. Then years go past, I retire, and I decided after meeting my wife on social media and us during the courtship, I decided maybe I'm going to move to Brazil. I did a little bit of research about the cost of living. Didn't really think too much about the medical, but it was something that me and her discussed because I actually had said to her, I need to be somewhere where there's good medical care because of my pre-existing condition. So that's the important thing. If you have a pre-existing condition, I don't care if it's diabetes or asthma, whatever the pre-existing condition may be, you want to make sure you're in an area where you could get treated properly. Of course, I moved to Sao Paulo, where my wife was from, and there's many, many, many hospitals here. Um, so the treatment wasn't an issue. Many, many doctors. As I mentioned in my previous video about my life here in Brazil, my experience, I talk a little bit about it. There's a lot of American-speaking doctors here, so you won't have a problem in Sao Paulo finding a doctor that speaks English. Now, as I stated in that video, when you start looking at some of these other areas, then you may run into a problem. But that's the research you have to do. And why I'm telling you this is because let's say you decide I'm going to move to Brazil, but I want to be on the beach. I love the sand. I love the water. I love all the activities on the beach. So you're in one of the coastal cities, right? Do your research. Check where the closest hospital is. And it's like I said, I don't care if you're 18 or 63. If you're in perfect health right now and you're young and you're like, I'm not worried about that, you should think about it. Because suppose you're very active in mountain biking or whatever, hiking, right? And suppose you get hurt, you've got to be treated. And it's very important. So let's talk about the treatment. Here in Brazil, they have SUS, S-U-S, which is government health care, and it's free. Now, whether you're here on vacation or whether you're here permanently, during an emergency, you don't need a CPF number. The CPF number is a tax identification number I mentioned in another video. That number is just an identifying number. Like I said, it's kind of like a social security number, but not quite like a social security number. When you have the CPF number, when you go to the SUS, they're going to say, what's your CPF? If you don't have one, then you got to have a passport. That's the minimum, a passport. If it's an emergency, they're still going to see you. Now, you go to SUS, it's free, doesn't cost anything, but the only thing it does cost is your time. Yes, you will wait, unless you're over 60 years old. Here in Brazil, if you're over 60 or above, you're considered preferential. What does that mean, preferential, here in Brazil? That means you cut the line. When I go to SUS, I cut the line. When I go to the supermarket, I cut the line. And I'm not saying like I get in front of everybody. They actually have specific lines in the supermarket or in stores and at the hospital, right, for preferential treatment, meaning 60 and above, or if you have a handicap, you get the preferential treatment. A lot of times my wife's like, oh, because she's much younger than me, oh, let's go to preferential. And I feel good. I'm 63, but I feel very young. But she pushes it. So we go through the preferential. Now, it does help when you're going to the SUS clinic because, like I said, it's going to cost you your time. And since it's free, depending on the time of day you go, there could be a lot of people there. As a Brazilian, my wife, they know the ins and outs of what time to go and what time not to go. There's been times where she's been sick or the kids have been sick. I said, well, let's go to the clinic, Mexico. So they know we'll go later because they know kind of what time frame to go when there's not a lot of people. As far as the actual treatment in SUS, because it's free, my overall experience has been good. I use SUS only for minor things, meaning if I have a head cold, chest cold, minor scrapes and bruises, anything like that, I'll go to SUS. And the treatment's been good. I've had some doctors within the SUS system that speak English, but most of them don't. So I use my translator. Or my wife is there with me and we've already talked, or she knows what's going on, so she'll talk to the doctor. They have the x-ray machines there at the SUS clinic. They have whatever they need to treat you. Now, if you have a head cold or a chest cold, like I had a really bad chest cold last year, they'll draw your blood and typically they'll give you a shot of vitamins, and I think it's dipperina. I'm not saying it right. I tell you what, the shot doesn't feel too great, right? They give it to you in your butt, but you will feel better, pretty fast. And for me, I've got lower back pain, which I've had chronic. I was taking anti-inflammatories for a long time, and I still am. And my lower back, I don't feel nothing. I mean, for like a week after, it feels great because the shot that they give you is an anti-inflammatory shot. The blood work takes a long time to get it back, unfortunately. So that's the treatment with the SUS. Now, as far as chronic illnesses, if you will, or pre-existing conditions like my open heart surgery, I go prepaid. I don't pay for health insurance here. They do have health insurance plans here. I'm still kind of like investigating them, see how the coverage is. I've heard some good and bad things about them, but I basically go to self-pay. The other video I mentioned, I was going to my cardiologist. I saw him yesterday. So when I went to see the cardiologist, I paid, it was 400 reals, right? So 400 reals is about $80, and that's for the office visit. And they also call it a consultation, even if it's a repeat. But when you go there and pay the 400 reals like I did, as of yesterday, I have 30 days to return and see them without paying again, which is good because they always do a follow-up. The cardiologist, great, speaks fluid English, very thorough. So this is my take on doctors here versus all the doctors I saw in the US. I had some good doctors in the US, but many people know in the US, the insurance system kind of has bogged down the medical system. In the US, they'll make me an appointment, go in to see the doctor. I'll see the nurse practitioner first, or even a medical assistant, ask me all the questions. Then the doctor comes in, talks to you for about 10 minutes, then they leave on to the next patient. Here, they sit down with you. I gave my cardiologist all my blood work. He went through all the parameters, told him if they're good or bad. Then he discussed what lab tests we're going to have done next. My cardiologist then examined me. He took my blood pressure. He did an EKG on me. The doctor did the EKG. Then we sat back down, talked some more. Typically, the appointments are averaging about 45 minutes when you go to see the doctor. I'm talking about the one-on-one care between you and that doctor, and talking about your health concerns or any questions that you have. That's what I love about the healthcare here at Brazil. As far as the private pay, you get the attention that you deserve. Now, I also talked about seeing a primary care doctor. So what I did, I don't have an actual primary care doctor. So what I did this last time, because I wanted to get a checkup, I went online, and they have a online Brazilian doctor service that is a primary care doctor. And I want to say it probably cost me about $60 maybe for it's an online consultation. So it's online where you talk to the doctor online. He spoke English. I talked about my concerns, things that I wanted to have checked, my blood sugar, my cholesterol, the basic stuff. He wrote up the script for the blood work, and I went and had the blood work done. I shared it with him. Unfortunately, I've been struggling with my blood sugar right on the borderline, and my hemoglobin A1C that determines if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, right on the borderline for years and years. Well, now it's gone past that borderline. It's gone up a little bit, my blood sugar, and my hemoglobin A1C was, I think, around 7.5. So now, between that and my actual weight of obesity, I'm pre-diabetic, or diagnosed with pre-diabetes. So I had a couple options. Of course, you change your lifestyle, but he also had recommended that I go on Wegovy, which is a very popular in the US and here weight loss medicine, but it also manages your hemoglobin A1C. It also has a lot of other attributes about it that's not why it was studied. It was studied for weight loss, but they're finding out all these other things about it. Like I said, lowering blood sugar. It actually helps with sleep apnea, which I have. I do use a CPAP machine. Helps with weight loss. I've been on it about 4 weeks now. I've already lost, like, I think about 10 pounds, but I haven't even started working out yet. Now, as far as the Wegovy, and I want to talk a little bit about medicine here, medication. The Wegovy here is costing me self-pay $200 a month. I think in the US, I'm pretty sure it's a lot more. And I know in the US, a lot of insurances won't have been covered anyway. I've heard there's been difficulty with that. So the Wegovy is like 200 a month. It's 999 reais. So that's that. Now, let's talk about maintenance meds. Okay, like I said, I've got heart disease, right? I'm on blood pressure medicine. I'm on atorvastatin. I'm on Faricimo. I'm on uh, two blood pressure medicines. You know, the regular cocktail for someone who's had open heart surgery. The really cool thing here in Brazil is that the maintenance medications don't require a prescription. Like my doctor the other day wrote me another prescription, but I don't need it to go in there and get my medicine filled. I've been here a year now, and even when I first came here, I just walked into the pharmacy. I said, "Hey, I need losartan at that time, 100 milligrams. I need atorvastatin, 80 milligrams. I need carvedilol, whatever the medicine was." And I just gave them the list of it. They looked it up. They told me what the price is. I paid for it, and then I left. Narcotics or controlled substances, yes, you do need a prescription. Like tramadol, you need a prescription. Now, before you ask about medical marijuana, which I'm not on, but I know some people might be, it is very highly regulated, tightly regulated. There's not dispensaries all around Brazil dispensing medical marijuana, nor will you see any stores selling marijuana. So if you're into that lifestyle or you're on medical marijuana, definitely want to make sure, whether it's Brazil or wherever you're going, that you can continue taking the medical marijuana. To give you an idea about the blood pressure medicine, averages about 10 to 40 reals a month, which is about $2 to $8 for the generics. If you go with the brand name, you're looking at 30 to 70 reals a month, so $6 to $20 for the brand name blood pressure medicine. A lot of there's a program, Pharmacia Popular, which subsidizes those types of medication like blood pressure medicine, like 90%. So you may pay 0 to maybe 5 reals, which is like $1. The atorvastatina, I take 80 milligrams a day, but it's cheaper for me to get 40 milligrams to take 2 of them a day. And that's running me around, it costs probably around 25 to 55 reals. So it's about $5 to $11 a month. The pre-diabetes, like I said, the Wegovy is like $200 a month. Let's talk about laboratory work, meaning whether you have to get blood work, CAT scans, whatever the case may be, the doctor may order something. Like I discussed earlier with the lab work for my pre-diabetes, they also found out I have polycythemia, which is elevated red counts and a hemoglobin. That was a result potentially from my testosterone therapy. So for like many years, I've been doing testosterone therapy. I've been actually doing the pellets, not the shots. So I get pellets implanted, and they typically last about 6 months. I started this in the US when I was in Florida, way before I even moved to Georgia and retired and everything. So twice a year, I get the pellets for my testosterone. In the US, again, they didn't want to cover it, meaning the insurance. It was very difficult, very costly. Here, I'm just doing a self-pay. So it's costing me for the testosterone therapy probably around about $2,200 for the therapy. So that's for seeing the urologist, getting the pellets implanted, and any follow-up. But the interesting thing here, which really helps, is that they finance. They don't run your credit. It's just an agreement between you and the doctor. So when I went, the doctor said, "Oh, I think it was around 12,000 reais," and he said, "Okay, this is the price. Can you afford this amount per month?" And this is when we first started, like probably a year ago when I first started it here. And I said, "Yeah, I could do that." So every month they send me a reminder. I send them the money, and then until it's paid off, and that's it. So that's a really good thing about here as far as any kind of care like that, where you can make the arrangements. With my cardiologist, because I was really concerned about what was going on with myself, he ordered an angiogram with the radioactive isotopes injection. Now that, of course, we went to the hospital, and that was like 3,000 reais at that time. So it was around like $500 or $600. The price in the U.S. can vary, on up of over $1,000 if you don't have insurance. If you do have insurance, you're going to pay a copay, $200-$300. I can't remember what I paid when I was back in the U.S. Um, I had that done. That was great. It was actually here a 6-hour procedure. They had this whole thing where you would eat. They'd give you this milkshake. I'm not sure what was in it. They'd give you the injection of radioisotope. Then you had to walk in this hallway. I think it was like for so many 15 minutes, come back, get the drink again. And then they did the scan. Then you had to walk. It was a whole process, but it took about 6 hours. They have a doctor there that reads the report right away. So you get the report just about in like one day later. Like they actually send it to you in the email. Then you can forward it to your doctor. So those are the things I kind of wanted to go over with the medical care, because I think it's very important that you consider your health before you come here and wherever you decide to move. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you're in this beautiful area surrounded by beaches or surrounded by jungle or trees or whatever it is that you're looking for, right? But there's no doctor nearby or no medical nearby or even a pharmacy to get your medicine, right? Here, of course, in this city, there's pharmacies all over, and probably 90% of the time we go on their app and order the medicine and they just deliver it by motorbike to the house. We don't even drive to go get it. That's the convenience of living here. So I hope I know it's a lot of information in a little bit of time. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the information. Please like and subscribe. Please leave any comments. I'll answer the comments in regards to healthcare or anything else. We'll see you soon. Boa tarde. Ciao.